Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
The Bears.
Because of the way they play the nickel corner here, and the nickel corner plays 88-85% of the snaps. He's got to be like part linebacker.
The Bears.
When you're in a scouting room, there's going to be differences of opinion.
The Bears.
Once coaches get involved, of course, they've got their own opinions about what fits best for what they want to do, and that could be drastically different than what the scouts say.
Well, you're looking at traits, and number one, he tested very, very well.
The Bears.
One thing good about Kevin, he's been with two other organizations, as well as being the commissioner of the Big Ten. He's been around.
The Bears.
With Greg Olson, Jerry didn't want to get rid of him. I didn't want to get rid of him. Nobody wanted to get rid of him. One guy wanted to get rid of him, Mike Martz, because Mike Martz didn't know what the hell to do with him. We tried to talk Lovey out of hiring Mike Martz for a month and a half. He's playing zone, but number one, he doesn't get enough depth with the drop. But who the hell's Gilbert? How many times does a 305, 310-pound defensive tackle drop into coverage, especially in a key situation?
The Bears.
Greg, why are teams wrong on quarterback evaluation so often?
Number one, it's a hard position to evaluate. There's probably not as many real good quarterback evaluators as there needs to be.
The Bears. The Bears. The Bears.
Welcome, everyone, to a fresh edition of GTF, Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia. A couple quick housekeeping points. If you're on Facebook, register at StreamYard.com/Facebook. That way, when you make a comment, I can see them here and share them with Greg and the rest of the team here. And if you're on YouTube, you know the drill. Hit that like button, leave a comment, and share. Also, one other quick programming note. On Wednesday, we're moving Bare Their Souls to Thursday so that we can accommodate Jeff Agris, the sports media reporter over at the Chicago Sun-Times. So we'll have him available to answer questions about the NFL contract, NFL streaming, all sorts of football television news, and we'll also cover all the latest news regarding sports media, whatever the sport and whatever your questions are. So without further ado, let me welcome in the man of the hour, Greg Gabriel. How are you? All white today. Woo! How are you, brother?
I'm on the road. It's a road show today.
I love it. I love it. And
from the Motor City.
I had a question already, even before the show started. It was from, who is it here? Somebody wanted to know about your travels. And so I'm going to put it up on the screen as soon as I find it. Where the heck did it go? Anyway, so tell us about your travels while I find that.
Well, my wife got transferred, so she's in Detroit here for a while, maybe up to a year. And so I'm going back and forth rather than sell the house because she might get transferred again, and I don't want to sell a house twice.
Yeah,
so,
right.
I'm coming. I came this week. She's come to Chicago in 2 weeks for a week, and, we'll make the most of it.
Outstanding. And so everybody also wants to know about the status of this puppy, Bennett. How did let's show him to us. Is he there with you?
Yeah, he's right. Well, there he is, laying down.
I love it.
My wife got him a orthopedic dog bed. And it's huge, and so she's got it right in front of the window, and then we bring it into the room at night, and he likes it. So he's sound asleep. He hasn't barked once since he's been here because he doesn't know, this is his place, and he doesn't have to protect it because he's a guard dog now.
Yeah, right.
But here he's like, this place isn't mine. I'm not used to this place yet. What was funny is that I thought, he'd see my wife and he'd go berserk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wrong. He was like, you left me. Where the fuck did you He like ignored her for like the first, all I got here Saturday. The rest of the night Saturday, he's like, nah.
She must have been heartbroken about that. That was an instance many years ago, about 20 years ago. My wife Donna was in Vegas for an entire month. Greg, it was a convention that she was doing, and when we flew her daughter in to see her, she got off the plane and she ran right past Donna and said hi to other people. And the reason was she was upset. I hadn't seen you in 3 weeks, Mom. I'm not sure I'm going to give you the greeting you want.
That's the way the dog was. Meantime, we got my stepdaughter guarding the fort. So
there you go. Okay, let's get down to the topic of the Chicago Bears. Greg, last week was mandatory minicamp. I know you saw some of the press conferences. I don't know how many you saw.
I think most of them.
Excellent. So can you give us anything that really stuck out to you, whether it was Ben Johnson's, again, expressing how important it is to get things absolutely right, or anything that the players may have said, anything to start off with, anything?
I think that might be one of the big things, even though it doesn't seem like it, is that he's a perfectionist. Mm-hmm. And you better be a perfectionist yourself. And so he holds them accountable right away. And he's not afraid to get in their face, where the previous staff would let him get away with murder, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And, like what, DJ? Was it DJ's press conference last week? And so DJ gets up there and they ask him a few things. What about this? He goes, not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Rules have been laid down, and so and I like that.
Yeah,
and players are going to be held accountable.
And yeah, that totally is nice to see. This is Ben Johnson responding to a question about Caleb Williams and how he handles a certain situation.
There was a teaching moment with Caleb at the end of that last 7-on-7 where he went to the flat for Roshan. What were you was he supposed to go somewhere else with that? Did you see something?
No, he was late. So he needs to get there faster.
How is he responding in those sorts of moments?
Awesome. Yeah, he's doing a great job. He's very coachable, and it's like anything. It's a new play, and so we're just communicating what the expectations are, and we want to see it show up on the tape.
It is important that players respond positively to this, because if not, then this rebuild is just going to continue on until you get new players, right?
Well, yeah, but the good part is that some staff, if like Courtney asked that question, they might kind of evade the answer and go on to something else or not answer. He was right away. He was late. Mm-hmm. So he had to let him know he was late, and he's not bashful about telling him that. Get the ball out of your hand quicker. That's the way the design of the play is set up. Mm-hmm. And so that's going to see, I appreciate coaching like that. That's the way I was always coached. Mm-hmm. So, when you have that, the players respond to it. I think players respond to it. They want to know when they're doing wrong. And it's like kids, you let kids get away with something, they're going to take it a step further and a step further. So he's like not giving them a way out. It's going to be perfect. That's all there is to it. You turned off your mic.
Sure effing did. AW has an interesting question. Have you ever seen a successful coach that is not a perfectionist? There have been some lucky ones, right?
I don't know. I mean, this guy, he different type of personality, but Parcells was the same way. Mm-hmm. Like Parcells would get in your face and he would yell, scream, and holler, but he would also pick teaching moments. Like I might have told this story once, like we were in training camp and he didn't like the way the offensive line was performing. So the night before we got a staff meeting or going over the practice plan for the next day, he goes, okay, I got to jump on the offensive line. They got to step up a little better. He goes, so when's a good time to do it? So they're looking through the practice schedule. He goes, okay, here's when I'm going to do it. And it was like 3 minutes into period 7 or something like that. And so he's sitting there, and while period starts, he walks over to where the water is, and he gets a big cup of water, paper cup full of water. And he walks back to where the drill is. And then all of a sudden, he just throws the water cup at a player and starts yelling and swearing and screaming. I had to go over another part of the field and start laughing because you knew it was coming. It was planned. The whole thing was planned. It was scripted. Players didn't know that.
Oh, wow. That's wild. So that type of stuff does happen where coaches will plan stuff like that to theatrically get across a point, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And then everybody, all of a sudden the offensive line starts playing a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Love it. All right. I got another soundbite here of players talking about Ben Johnson and his coaching style. Let's start with Tyson Bagent.
I like how thorough he is. I think that he can go down the rabbit hole of every situation in football with every position in football, which I think has been most impressive. Usually you get an offensive-minded guy or a defensive-minded guy at the helm of the team, and I think obviously he is an offensive guy, but you can kind of see him going down the rabbit hole with the defense and team meetings of what he's expecting on the defensive side of the ball. And really the most impressive thing is when he does that, he speaks that same language that the defense is speaking. So that's been what I've noticed with the O-line. He can, he's about as good of a position coach as every position coach that's on our team. So I think that'll do wonders for us going down the line, just because it's very crystal clear the expectations at every position.
Greg, every year at OTAs, training camp, and so forth, you hear players putting praise on their head coach and on their position coaches. But this year, it really does sound super authentic, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but it's because it's new. And so, every year you go in, you get into the off season, you're enthusiastic, you got new players, signed guys in free agency, drafted guys, and everybody's enthusiastic. So they try to put a positive spin on things. But this is, it's a brand new. Not only is there new players, there's new coaches, and it's a style of coach that hasn't been around here in a while. Lovey was more quiet. Lovey was a disciplinarian, but a lot more quiet than Ben Johnson is. Mm-hmm. So, there's a difference in that way. But I think, you watch some of the other coaches, Al Harris, Bieniemy, Randall L. They can be vocal too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed.
And that's good. Again, that's the way I was brought up in the game. So I really get into that.
Yeah. And it seems like the players are responding well to the tough coaching. It's not just, the perfectionist side. We've seen glimpses of Eric Bieniemy just throwing bombs at the running backs, and there's no crying. There's no crying in this training camp. That's awesome.
He's just being himself.
Yeah. Which he's been that way his entire coaching career.
I remember the exact term he bitched at Bieniemy, he bitched at Manangai. You look like an old ass man.
Exactly.
When you read between the lines, he's really trying to do is get the best out of the player.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
That was okay. That was acceptable, but you're capable of doing better.
Yeah, indeed. All right. A player who is still perhaps has the weight of what he did last season on his shoulders, at least in part from the media. The media is still talking to Tyreek Stevenson regarding what happened last year. Here's a clip of Patrick Finley asking Tyreek about what happened last year.
Are you excited to have a fresh start this year after what happened to you last year and after what happened to the team last year?
Pretty much, yeah.
still with some of the guys from that team last year, and you know we all want to be the best defense in this. The defense want to be the best defense this year, so I wouldn't say a fresh start. I would just say some of the guys come out with the same mentality. We add some pieces in, add some dogs, and now it's time to hunt now.
Ben said that he hasn't really talked to you about the Hail Mary play last year. Has Al Harris or any of the new coaches been like, so what happened there?
There's really no conversation need to be had. I owned it. It was a mistake. I just happened to play a sport where my mistake is just national televised, and I feel like talking to me and going through the meetings, they can see that I already owned up to it, and I owe the guys from last year nothing but effort and myself, and they see that I'm putting it in. So there's really no conversation need to be had.
Greg, you satisfied? Let's move on.
Yeah, I agree with him 100% because the media here, they're gonna keep kicking the dead horse.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of ridiculous. I get Patrick asking the question, have they said anything? And he goes, no, it's a new group. But, when you go back to he asked, not Patrick, but somebody else asked Johnson about Stevenson. It's the same thing. That was last year. What they did last year is last year.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. I do think that it was okay to bring it up, but I hope it doesn't become an issue moving forward unless, Tyreek has some other transgression. But, the fact of the matter, it was one of the major plays of the 2024 NFL season. And so
with this team, really, you could say it was the turning point of the season.
Exactly.
Up until that play, this team was playing pretty good football.
They were going to win that game.
Turned on one play.
Yep. They were going to win that game and go to 5-2. So it was a dramatic moment in the season. There's no doubt about that.
I try to take the positive spin, and I can go back. A couple of weeks ago, somebody was trying to give me some crap on X about the change in the coaching staff. Well, we could have had him last year. I said, no, you couldn't have had him last year.
Mm-hmm.
They should have hired Flus last year and they could have hired him last year. I go, no, he wasn't taking a job last year.
Exactly. That's an uninformed opinion.
He would have come here. He said he wanted to come to Chicago. Yeah, He wanted to come to Chicago this year.
All right.
He said a number of times, and then when we had his agent on our show, he said he felt he was not ready to be a head coach last year. He needed one more year.
Yep.
And, so things kind of work out for the better.
Yep.
Because had they not gone through the BS that they went through this year, he wouldn't be the head coach now. Now, we still don't know what's going to happen. We assume it's going to be a lot better, but we don't know that for sure. But it's just the way things turned out. So far, it's turned out pretty good. I mean, he was the guy. He was the high man on the totem pole, the guy in demand. And the Bears didn't even make the call to offer the job. He called them and said, if you go back to the conversation we had with the agent, he said, call the Bears and see if you can get a deal done on Monday morning. You remember he said that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, it was a whole different scenario. I mean, what's weird about that is they never had an in-person interview with him.
Yeah, that is right. They knew enough. They knew, I got to credit Ryan Post. He really did his homework. And do you think that it's a good idea for a general manager to go into a coaching search with somebody in mind? Because it's clear that Poles had his mindset on Ben Johnson. Do you think that's a good idea, or you should just be totally open-minded in that process?
I'm not totally sold that he had his mind set like that might have been his preconceived favorite.
Okay.
But he came out of the interview saying that's the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I'm sure he had some other strong interviews too, but he just knew at that point, and like he had said, go back to when all this happened, he said, I knew it was the guy, but I wasn't going to say that to everybody else. They had to figure out who they wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. All right, I want to play a sound clip from Rome Odunze, primarily because I am predicting that Rome Odunze is going to be the overall yards, get the most total yards of offense this season, outside the quarterback, of course. So this is Rome.
And you're going to have a pissed off DJ Moore.
I know. There's going to be a lot of players pissed off. But there's something about Rome and his ability to break tackles and get open deep. I just have a hunch that he's going to get about 1,200 yards of offense. And this is Rome on how he's prepared during the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I feel great. I feel like I've, took that time in the offseason, up until from when we finished playing up until this point to, kind of dial in on what I feel I needed my, physicality and body type to play at this level, at a high level. And I think I've continued to make strides in that aspect, whether that's strength, upper body, all those different things. I feel like I've made strides at that point. And like you said, it's different having that transition from college football and all those different things you got to go through to then actually play football. Now I just kind of get to worry about playing football.
How much lean mass did you put on?
I don't know if I have a specific number of pounds, but I definitely, put on a few for sure, at minimum a few, and then drop some fat mass. So those are things I continue to monitor and try and hone in on. But I couldn't give you a specific number.
Guy looks ready for action, man.
So I was going to say, I'm watching that, and I saw it before, and I thought the same thing, but it just came back to me. Pull up a video of him from last year.
Mm-hmm.
His face looks heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's, and this is part of, because I know the weight program they do, and percentage of body fat and muscle mass matters. It's not your weight. Is it good weight versus bad weight? And, your percentage of body fat. So like he's a skill position, ideally for him, he should be around 8%, 7.5%, 8%. If he's 9%, that's fine. But, you don't want him over 10. You don't want him in double digits. But you look at him last year, and I'm not going to say he's a little chubby, but you could see that he has got more, he's leaner, but probably 5 pounds heavier. So he's gained muscle weight, lost fat weight. Like I said, you could see a little bit in his face. And what that's also going to do is make him faster.
That's him from 2024.
And the look at his face looks a little heavier.
Yep. He also looks like he needs some sleep, to be honest. You're absolutely right. I can see the difference, indeed.
So it's, when you get guys, when they get strong, they lose fat, they get stronger, their speed increases. Like he ran a 4.44, 4.45 at the combine, something like that.
Yeah.
I bet you if you now he's not speed training now, but I bet you he's faster.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to see it in the field. There's a couple clips I saw where he was doing an out and he like made a fake to the inside and a real sharp cut and got separation immediately. And it was like, yeah, that's what I like seeing. And you could see that he wasn't necessarily doing that last year. And he can do it because of what he's done in the off season to improve his body, to improve the explosiveness in his body.
Yeah, indeed. Got a lot of good questions coming in. I am saving them. Let's get a couple out here. AW wants to know, what are scouting directors across the league doing right now at this time of the year? Are they resting for a very busy August, September, October, and on?
Well, reality is with the end of the program this week, just rookies can be there this week. Now, I would not be a bit surprised, based on a conversation I had with one person, that there are some, unless they shut it down totally after last week, there's supposed to be one more week OTAs this week, but it was rookies only. Right. And they also have they got a mandatory rookie program that they have to go through. And that's a like courses they got to take, classes they got to take, and it's learning how to be a pro and deal with money, all sorts of things like that.
Right.
But it wouldn't shock me that if they didn't shut it down completely, some other guys are there too. Hey, I'm in town. I might as well go work out with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You don't have to be
Rome
there.
said he was going to stay in for next week. So,
I'm sorry, what?
Rome Odunze said he was going to be here this week.
Okay, yeah. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if that was the case because, like I said, somebody told me that alleviated to that hey, doors open. Just because you don't have to be here doesn't mean you won't show up.
Awesome. All right. Let's see. Wade Starr wants to know, as a personnel guy, does Greg agree with the criticism of Ryan Poles for not bringing in the other top quarterbacks for visits prior to drafting Caleb with regard to the unfair abuse Caleb has taken in the media?
Well, they made their mind up. You make your mind up, you make your mind up. Now, that's not to say they didn't do a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
So what if they didn't bring him in on a 30 visit? They could have done a Zoom call with him. We don't know what they did and what they didn't do. But they didn't bring him in on a 30 visit. And they had people at the pro day. I don't think the big decision makers were there, but there were people there. But I got to go back. I didn't completely answer the question from before about what do directors do.
Yeah.
So the end of last month, you had your Bledsoe and national meetings. The Bears are a national. Those meetings last 4 or 5 days. You're going over the prospects for next year. But, I've seen those prospect lists. What those prospect lists look like now, what the draft's going to look like next April, 11 months from now, are totally different. And so because you got the combine scouts are putting the grades on. Generally, they're the most inexperienced scouts on the staff. And it is, we used to call it the Bible, but it was a guide. It was the list of names. But they're ranked. So they got a grade on them, but it doesn't mean a whole lot because you're going to go in and you're going to slap your own grade on them with each scout that goes in. So they did that at the end of last month. This month, with the end of the program this week, they got time off now until camp opens up. And these guys will go on vacation, spend time with their families. But I know, like my scouts and when I wasn't away on vacation, I was in the office and you're starting to do work because you just want to get a little bit ahead, and I had a lot of the guys, my scouts anyway, do small school guys that were on the combine list and watch their tape and see if they thought it was important enough for them to go in and make a school call during the year. So basically make a decision on the player. And if they said, no, I don't think he's good enough, then that's fine. We'll go with that. Now, if he turns out to be a player, it's so much easier to go back and do one player at a small school. So maybe you got 3 or 4 from, around the country from small schools than having them waste time during the week. Once the fall scouting starts in August, so my philosophy was I never want to have them have a wasted day during their work week. Making a school call someplace, they're going, what the hell am I doing here? Because I know that happened to me a lot. When I started out with the Giants, we had a set schedule and couldn't change it. And I'd go into a school and about, I'd get there at 7 in the morning and about 9:30, I'm going, what the fuck am I doing here? And you can't leave, and that was before cell phones. And periodically my boss, may he rest in peace, he'd call up just to make sure you were there. He'd call the school, and make sure you were adhering to the schedule. So I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to look over anybody's shoulder.
Yeah,
you go where you want to go. You do what you think you have to do. Of course, you're going to be held accountable to it. But if you don't think you got to go to Mount Union, Division III school, very good Division III school, even though they got a couple of names on the list, then don't go. And if somebody turns up, we'll go back later. It's real easy to play catch up.
Yeah.
On one small school guy.
let's stay on this topic here because this is fascinating to me. When you've been in the position as a scouting director where you brought in your own scouts, you replenished the staff, so to speak, and so where was that pool of scouts that you looked at, the resumes? Was it word of mouth? Is there a database of qualified candidates? How's that work, Greg?
Well, we kept 4 and hired 2.
Okay.
Okay. Now the 4 we kept, I knew all of them. Been on the road with all of them at some point, so you already knew what their personalities were, their work ethic, etc. The 2 we let go, we didn't have that good feeling about, and so and Jerry let him go really right away. I wasn't involved with it. Jerry got here on a Tuesday, I got here on a Wednesday, and on Tuesday Jerry let those 2 go, and then put me in charge of hiring the 2. And the 2 I hired were Chris Ballard and Teddy Monago. So we had a home run with both of them. And that I had not known either. It was, I talked to them 3 or 4 times on the phone for an hour apiece, and just had a really good feeling about them. And I hired them sight unseen, which I've never done before. And then brought them in after and knew I hit a home run after we brought them in. We brought them in then for a week. And, their resumes speak for themselves right now.
What do you remember that call? Let's say with Ballard. Do you remember that call? Was there any one particular thing that Chris said during that interview? And he must have said a number of things, but any one thing come to mind that you said this guy might be the guy?
Well, no. Number one, he was a yes or no, sir. So he's very polite, articulate. But see, what I did, it's not an easy job. So everybody wants to be a scout, the glamorous scouting job. It's not glamorous. Your ass is on the road for a long time. You're away from your family. It can cause problems with your family because you're away a lot. You miss things. You miss kids' basketball games, soccer games, whatever. And so I spent probably half of each conversation trying to talk them out of it.
Interesting.
And that's how I attacked it. So in essence, I was trying to make him sell me how much he wanted it, because I'd say, "Oh, you really want to do this? You're going to be gone." I said, "I was gone over 200 nights, 5 years in a row. Do you want to be gone that long? Do you think your wife can handle that?" That type of thing. And so, I threw the negatives of the job at them to get them to think. And then, and if they still wanted it, then you knew you had the right person.
Yeah. Or at least a qualified candidate, right? Because if someone starts hemming and hawing once you bring up, 18-hour days away from kids' birthdays and stuff, they start hemming and hawing, then this might not be the guy.
Yeah, I mean, hey, this you got to be cut out for this. It's not easy. I mean, it cost me a marriage, my first one, and that's the way it is. And I'm sure there's a lot of others the same way. And then it's the same with the coach's wife, because when you get married, you better marry a special person, because she's the one raising the kids. You're gone, and with a coach, from the time training camp opens until the season's over, it's like, yeah, you might go home and sleep at night, but that's about the only time you're there.
Yeah.
Especially, during the season, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, you're home. I mean, you're almost working until midnight, every night. Then Thursday night's a little less. And Friday night, you're all done. And like Tobe would get to go to his son, Shane, who was actually coaching for the Commanders now. He was a quality control guy here for the Bears for a little while on the previous staff. But Shane, we used to go to Shane's games Friday night. He played at Carmel Catholic. And there was always a bunch of the coaches went. Lovey went a couple times because Shane was a pretty good player. And there were some other guys. In fact, Jason McKee's the head coach at Carmel now.
Okay.
But, that was the night you had some time to spend with the family, just about no other time.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a corporate job where we were hiring project managers, and we knew, the job was 50, 60 hours. And so as soon as we made an offer to somebody and they accepted, we sent flowers to the wife, because we wanted to stay in their good graces. So every once in a while we'd send a gift and say, thank you for your patience. All right. I got another question here. Lee says, does Greg think all the adjustments BJ and Caleb are doing will help with Caleb's deep ball? And Ben Johnson was asked about that, and he said that the way you correct inaccuracy is repetition.
Right. You go back and you look at, but nobody meant by repetition. It wasn't just throwing deep balls. It's repetition with the same player.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's getting to know that player, know his speed, how long it takes him to get from point A to point B, and how much he's got to lead the guy by, how much air he's got to put under the ball. It's all part of it. Where, okay, he's in college, he's played with some of these guys for a few years. You go back and you look at his college tape, his deep ball was unbelievably good. He rarely missed a deep throw. Okay, last year he couldn't hit a deep throw to save his life. And a lot of that is just the unknown between him and the receiver, and probably not enough practice doing it, with the Bears last year. So as Ben said, it's repetition, and he's right. You just keep doing it, and then you know the receiver so well that you know exactly how hard and the way you got to throw the ball to get it to him.
Yeah, indeed. Is there anything else about Caleb's game that you are going to be studying to see if there's progress from 2024 to 2025? So the common things are, of course, accuracy. He's got to improve his accuracy, finding that a secondary receiver, perhaps
it's just processing things every quicker. And you could say that's recognition too. So processing, recognition, but you come up, you start seeing enough different defenses that you can expect what they were going to do. And one of the best that I've ever seen is Aaron Rodgers. And, he'd come to the line of scrimmage. He'd know exactly what the defense is going to do based on the alignment, and he could check out of a certain play and go. And that takes experience. You don't do it as a rookie. And it's so getting that much better at that, and he's going to be better this year than he was last year. Next year, he's going to be better than he was this year. You look at Jared Goff. Jared Goff, McVay didn't want him anymore. He didn't think he was good enough.
Yeah.
And so they did the swap with Detroit, and Goff is a better quarterback now than the guy he traded for, swap places with. So part of that was the growth. Maybe McVay's not an easy guy to work for either. Maybe he just clicked with Johnson better than he clicked with McVay. Part of it was his own experience.
Right. I gotta believe it's that when Goff went to Detroit, everyone, including reporters in Detroit and most of the fans, said he's a bridge quarterback. They're going to bring in a new quarterback and so forth. And I think Goff may have surprised even the Detroit Lions organization with how well he took to Ben Johnson and the results they were getting. Plus, the supporting cast around Goff almost made it, foolproof. I mean, he had a lot of weapons, still does at Detroit. We'll see how well they do in 2025 without Ben Johnson.
Without Ben Johnson, now they lost their center last
Mm-hmm.
week, and that is a retirement. What we were talking about when it first came out last week, and that is an actual retirement, and he's just beat up.
Yeah.
Now, now I still don't know if they put him on reserve retired, because they put him on reserve retired, he's done for the year.
It's over. Yeah. Okay. I don't think they have yet, but we'll see.
So they signed a guy who's been a starter in the league. I can't think of what his name is. Last team he was with the Cardinals, but they also drafted Ratledge from Georgia, who was the right guard at Georgia.
Right.
And a pretty good player. Now, I graded him last summer or early last year. Had a pretty good grade on him. Now, he went, second, third round to Detroit?
Second round, I think, yeah.
Okay, well, I really liked him based on, mostly 23 tape. And then I'm going to round 4 games into the season or something. He got a high ankle sprain, and he had that tightrope surgery, which is a fast healing thing. And it was just it actually hastens the recovery period. It's a minor surgery, but it hastens the recovery period of a high ankle sprain. So he missed 4 games. But then when he came back, he wasn't totally himself. And by the end of the year, he was playing really well. But I think that injury, he was a name that you might have heard had he played all year as a possible first.
Mm-hmm.
But because he missed that time, he didn't. But he's got a chance to be a good player. But he's almost 6'6". So they're working him at center, and it's going to be a new position because I went and checked it. He's never played center in his life. He's always been a tackle in high school and then a guard in college. So it's not an easy transition. And then they lost some other guys. You know how the Bears have brought in a whole new interior offensive line? Well, basically, they got a whole new interior offensive line too.
Yeah.
But they don't have some of the experience that the Bears got.
Right. Grizz says, can Ratledge call out Mike linebackers and defensive fronts and audibles and blocking schemes? That's all going to be a crash course for him, right?
That's a hard thing to do. It's like, but like as Olin said, we talked about last year, if you got a veteran on each side of you, you can get away with it because the guards can help the center.
Exactly.
But if you got, in this case, he's got new guards too. Now he's got the kid from Boston College who, but Ziegler's gone, and another guy is gone. So it's how fast do those guys get up to speed? And this team, they lost a lot of players. Detroit did, players and coaches, and I don't think, I think the fans think their fans think they're going to be fine. I think they get not going to be as good as they think it's going to be.
I think I know there's a couple of Detroit fans in the chat room, so they're going to get really upset when I say this, but I truly believe there is a possibility that they could lose 5 of their first 8 games. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say, but I'm going to match.
You got a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator was there last year, but he's a first-time coordinator. Kelvin Shepard he was playing just a few years ago. It's not like he's been coaching 20 years. So it's going to be a different story. It'll be interesting, but when you lose your center, that's like the most important guy everybody says, well, the most important guy is the left tackle. Well, he's really the second most important. The center is the most important.
The center, indeed.
He's the glue.
Yep.
And that's why the Bears gave Dahlman all that money to get a really good guy in there.
Yep, a guy who can step in without there being any problems. I
got to tell you though, that, I'm driving here on Saturday, and so I'm listening to the Cubs game, and I got the score on because of they're the the network for the Cubs games, so I'm listening to Pat Hughes and such. And then I get out, I get about halfway through Michigan, and I can't pick up the score anymore. So I find the Detroit station, and I'm listening. Now the Cubs are, at this point they're ahead 5-1. They've already hit 4 home runs or something. And I'm listening to their announcer, and I'm going, are they at the same game, the game I was just watching? Their take was so much different than the take from the Chicago guys. It really just cracked me up, and it's really it's like fans too. You just see it, see it in tunnel vision type vision.
Absolutely. Well, that's why they play the games, right? All right, let's see what else we got here in time. Oh, I wanted to share this from Arnie. He says, Tom Thayer said he could not make the transition from guard to center. He said it's harder than many have said that it is. So there you go.
First of all, you got to know how to snap the ball. Now, back when Tom was playing, the quarterback was under center a high percentage of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now in some offenses, the quarterback's almost never under center. In this offense, he's going to be under center at least half the time.
Mm-hmm.
If not more. But the blind snap is not easy. Just go back, when Cody Whitehair was playing center and how many times he had bad snaps on the shotgun.
Yeah.
And then he had to change his grip. He went from holding the ball get my hand like this to like this.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've noticed that since then, there are a lot of centers that put their hand on the top of the ball like that and throw it back that way instead of like an upside down pass.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting just to think, and you've got to recognize, you got to come up to the line of scrimmage. You're looking around a little bit. You got to recognize the defense just as quickly as the quarterback does.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to call out the blocking scheme.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody posted something here that's irritating me. So please
what they post that's irritating? Or don't you want to say?
I don't want to give them the time. So let's just move on. Just be careful with your marks, that you put in the chat. All right. Let's see. I wanted to address this from Larry T. He wanted to know, have we talked about the left tackle position battles? And we haven't on this show. He goes on to say Trapillo has garnered more hype, it seems. Now, of course, in OTAs and mandatory minicamp, you can't really tell much. There's no pass, there's no hitting and so forth. But at this point, Greg, you as an evaluator, what are you looking for at OTAs that can tell you this guy can move from the right side of the offensive line to the left side of the offensive line or vice versa?
Well, obviously it's football, but now it's not totally new for Ozzie Trapillo because he played first 2 years in college. He was on the left side. And then actually his first 3, I think he was a 5-year guy. His first 3 years in college was the left side and then last 2 on the right side. And I might be wrong that he might have been just a 4-year guy. I might be wrong on that. But it's your footwork, and it's also, your knowledge, your ability to pick up what they're asking you to pick up, as far as the offensive scheme, what they're being asked to block, how they're being asked to block it. I think the media is, a couple of times when the media there, Trapillo was working with the ones. The other guy, Amagaji, was working with the ones on other days. They were alternating them during the off-season program. I don't think it means anything one way or the other. The media seems to want to pick Trapillo as their guy, which is fine, but nothing's going to mean anything until, especially on the offensive and defensive line, until we get into camp, and then you're seeing him do things at live speed, not, it's semi-live in an OTA or a mini camp situation, but there's still no real contact, and so your ability to win a block, knock a guy off the ball, pass protect against speed, pass protect against a counter move, where you think they're doing it right here, in a OTA minicamp situation is going to look totally different when they're live next month, or not next month, almost 2 months from now.
Right. Do you think it's a blessing in disguise that Braxton Jones was still nursing or rehabilitating his ankle, and because that allowed Karan and the rookie Ozzie to get more snaps at left tackle?
Well, that's all they got right now. So they had to get it. But yeah, it's and Karan needed it because he missed it last year.
Right.
So that part is all good. But at the same time, and we've talked about this like 2 shows in a row, and I talked about it with Swifty the other day.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of left Braxton Jones on the outside looking in. And, unless these guys prove they can't play, once the pads come on at the end of June or end of July, he could be on the outside looking in. And the reason I say that is because he's going into the last year of his contract.
Right.
And we've talked about this, and it's like, you can get something for him, and probably something halfway decent if he bounces back and he's able to play, sometime during the preseason. Somebody might give up something halfway decent for him. When if you lose him, because I can't see them paying, $15-18 million for him a year from now, especially when they got 2 guys on a rookie contract to play the same position. You lose them in free agency, you get nothing. You trade them, you get something.
Right.
And so I can see him being trade bait. Now, granted, that may not happen. They may say, we're going to keep 4 tackles and go with that. But then you're also putting yourself into a situation that you're not going to get anything for him once he goes somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Now, the only way that changes is if Amagaji and Trapillo prove they can't play. And if they prove they can't play, then that's a strike against Ryan Poles. So, it's the best thing for the Bears is for these 2 young guys to show they can play.
And CJ's asking whether Braxton would garner a comp pick. That, of course, depends on what he signed for. A lot of.
People, and we've explained this before, but I think people don't really get the formula. 1 contract means nothing. Let's just say he got a contract like the guy from Pittsburgh and the other guy who got a big contract, and you'd say, that's going to be a 3rd round pick. No, it's not, because it's the pluses and minuses. Who have you signed versus who you lost? And then there's as it stands right now, the Bears are probably going to get a 7th next year. But, and it's a big but, all the guys that they lost got to play for the new teams. Mm-hmm. And if they get hurt, that throws out the formula. Yeah. Because that guy then, he even though he got paid money, if he didn't play and produce for that team, then it changes the compensation for it.
There you go. Now, one of the interesting things is if those 2 young players, Ozzie and Karan, look good at left tackle, and the Bears decide, okay, Braxton is expendable, then you get into a potential poker match, chess match, whatever you want to see, just however you want to phrase it, where Ryan Poles could wait for a team who loses their left tackle and is desperate and might give up a day 2 pick or an early day 3 pick for a left tackle, because left tackles are so valuable and so difficult to come by, especially a guy who has started for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, no, he's got a lot of play time. Is he perfect? No. He can be a lot better than he is. All he's got to do is get his ass down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that's a coaching thing. A coach who makes him do it. Mm-hmm. But it could happen. You could hold on to him now and wait till the trade deadline.
Yeah. That's
No, it doesn't mean you're going to do it in August or at the 53. You could hold on to him in August because, you want to see. The last thing you want to do is get in a situation like last year where they had injuries and then you got nobody to step in. So
Right.
It could be a situation where, you get into the season, somebody loses their left tackle. Now I got to get somebody. And yeah, that puts them in panic mode. And maybe they pay a little bit more.
Yeah.
So in my own mind, I think a fourth is the price based on the fact that he is coming off an injury. Actually, the last 2 years, he's missed some time. He played a lot the first 2 years.
Good point.
Yeah. So, but he's got quality. I mean, he's capable of starting for most teams in the league.
Yeah, indeed. I would agree with that. And, I hear Squeegee, he's not a fan. He wants us to move on and so forth. But Squeegee and everyone else that's a critic of the Bears left tackles, and I go back to the days of Leno, you got to compare them to other left tackles in this league. There are a lot of teams that are unhappy with their left tackle position because the college ranks aren't producing tackles and offensive linemen, period, the way it used to when you were in the league, Greg. I mean, they used to run.
What it is you're getting better pass blockers as a whole.
Okay.
Because they pass the ball so damn much.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them don't know how to run block worth of shit.
Exactly.
Because of the way the run games are in college. So it's hard. You got to find the guy, and I use the term a lot, probably wears people out, but you got to find the right traits.
Mm-hmm.
And the football character. Does the guy want to be a great football player? Or is he going to do what it takes to become a great football player?
Yeah. Do you think it's possible, or maybe I should phrase this in a negative way, Braxton being ready week 1, K is bringing it up. Is it possible he may not be ready?
We don't know the answer to that. I'm looking at, he had a surgery. He had a broken bone in his foot. And he broke it about a month after Aiden Hutchinson from Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And Hutchinson's full go right now. So, and he has been for a week and a half, 2 weeks. Well, based on that, he should be, and he did not have as serious an injury as Aiden Hutchinson had. So based on that, if he's going through just as difficult a rehab and working at it just as hard, theoretically, he should be ready when camp starts.
Yep.
And that's just something they don't have to tell. So they won't tell us. And they say he's ready to go, he's passed his physical, he'll be there. Now, knowing you're going to know what you're going to know, first day of camp, he could be put on PUP, physically unable to perform. Mm-hmm. And that means he can't pass the physical yet because he's not ready to strap it up and play.
And so if you are put on PUP, that means you have, 6 weeks to decide?
No, that's it. Yeah, that's in-season PUP.
Okay.
PUP is literally day to day. You can't. You still count against the 90-man limit.
Gotcha.
But you're not allowed to practice.
Gotcha.
You haven't passed the physical yet. That's basically what it means. You haven't passed the physical yet. Okay. So it could be, a guy that comes. They have conditioning testing as soon as they get there, and a guy who can't pass the conditioning test gets put on PUP, and he can't come off of PUP until he can pass the conditioning test.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I want to star that one, get back to Lee's point on this. And by the way, I want to thank Evie for the $2 donation to the bar room. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Evie.
You look better and better every time I see that picture. She's been a long time follower of the bar room and our work here, so really appreciate it. All right. let us go to the news out of Green Bay. The Packers are releasing cornerback Jaire Alexander. The decision comes after months of uncertainty surrounding the two-time Pro Bowler. It was like, we're going to trade you. No, maybe we can work this out. And now they just released him. So obviously they couldn't find a trade partner for the guy. Your thoughts on the Packers releasing a guy who has been in 2 Pro Bowlers?
I don't know what the issue is. There's some hidden thing in there that
he's a jerk. Is what it is.
I mean, but is he a jerk in the locker room? Is he a cancer in the locker room? Does he not get along with his teammates? I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, on the field he can be a jerk, but what's he like personally? Does he work hard at his craft, or is he just naturally good? Is he? Stephon Diggs is a great player, but he's an a-hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Houston let him go. Buffalo finally let him go. Houston let him go after 1 year. Minnesota let him go after 3 years. It's you just don't want to deal with him anymore, and that could be the case. Now, somebody could say, "Well, Bears can sign him as a free agent or whatever." Well, you know what his contract is right now? Because I pulled it up thinking we may talk about this.
Is it $17 million?
Yeah. Now, that's for a trade. Once he gets waived, the contract becomes not waived. He's already a vested vet. Once he gets released, the contract becomes null and void. But if you traded him, he's got 2 years left on the contract. 16,150 this year and 18,150 next year.
Oof.
Okay, so based on those figures, Bears can't even afford them. They only got 14 and a half in cap space right now. So they'd be $2 million over the cap just if they picked up the contract.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to hear, like everything else. Like, we're gonna sign that running back who just went to Houston yesterday. We're gonna sign this guy. We're saying, no, they aren't. We said a bunch of times here they weren't signing that running back. Wasn't going to happen.
Nick Chubb, yeah.
And it's Poles said shortly after the draft, we like what we have. We want to see what we have. So it'll be in the camp sometime if we ever make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a nice way of saying no. We're not doing anything. Because in the meantime, all these other guys could get signed. Then you have the presser last week with Ben, and he gives us 2 surprise guys for the offense and surprise guys for the defense. And who's one of the surprise guys for the offense? You're running back from Rutgers, Manangi. And it's okay. So that's another reason. They're happy with what they have, but yet there's fans that keep saying, "Do you think I got a couple DMs and some other things?" And Bill Zimmerman from Windy City, he put it out. Well, they still could go this way, this way, and this way, and Bill's in tune with what's going on. But to me, it's just strictly a fan narrative that they want a running back. Mm-hmm. And that the coaching staff and the front office is like, no, we got our running backs.
So based on what you're saying, it makes me believe that the idea of James Cook coming from Buffalo in a trade is probably not going to happen.
Yeah, you know where he's going to be playing this year? Cook's going to be playing in Buffalo. He's under contract to them. They like him. They can't get together on a deal. But guess what? It's either get fined and lose all your contract or play.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I want to get back to Alexander now not being a member of the Packers. This is their cornerback situation. Starters are Carrington Valentine and Keyshean Nixon. I don't know Valentine at all. Nixon was a special teamer, a very good special teamers. And then this is the Green Bay Packers website, and their depth chart
was a high pick.
Who was?
Eric Stokes.
And the Packers have him in their website. And of course, this means relatively nothing now, but nonetheless, they have him as the backup at one cornerback position. And Corey Ballantyne, the long-armed nickel back, they have him as a backup too, and then Robert Rochelle. So it's not exactly a sterling cast there at the cornerback position for the Green Bay Packers. Interesting.
Screw 'em.
Blow pack blow, as Flex says. I love it.
Hey, not my team. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yep, indeed. But I gotta say something. I was watching Get Up this morning on ESPN, the Mike Greenberg early morning show, and they're having this long ass discussion about Caleb Williams. Is this a make or break year for Caleb Williams?
You know what? It's they got to have something to talk about. It drives me nuts. You know, they Caleb had good numbers last year.
Yes.
The team sucked.
Right.
But you compare Caleb's numbers to other rookie quarterbacks in the league, dude had 5 interceptions. That's it.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Particularly given that they were playing from behind so often. Yeah. That's amazing. But I will say this.
And he had coaches pushing on him. You can't make a mistake. You can't make a mistake. And I think that made him timid to begin with.
Yep, I agree. I hate that approach to coaching a quarterback, making and that happened with Trubisky as well, with John Fox. They just drill into him, don't make a mistake. That it makes them tentative, and I don't like that.
Know what it is? You don't trust your instincts, and when you think twice about making a throw. And just that split second that you're thinking twice, you lost the throw.
Right. I will say this, that Caleb's stats last season for first half performance was not very impressive. And so those who say that he embellished his stats because they were always playing from behind and teams were playing nickel defenses, and so he could chew up a lot of yards underneath, there is something to that, isn't there?
Yeah, there can be, but you still gotta make the reads, make the throw, get the ball out of your hand, complete the pass.
Absolutely.
And not turn it over.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, to my eye, the guy is definitely going to be a good quarterback. Can he be a great one? Absolutely. He's got all the weapons right now.
I saw Eli Manning twice as a rookie. Once was against us. It might have been one of the first games he started, or they pulled Warner and put him in, but he was god awful. I mean, just terrible. And he played like a rookie quarterback is expected to play. And, some people think that, because CJ Stroud had a pretty good year, and Daniels had a pretty good year last year. Some people are blessed with just being in the right situation at the right time. But the norm is you play like shit. Peyton Manning, who's one of the best all-time quarterbacks in the game, he threw something like 28 or 29 interceptions as a rookie. Let rookies be rookies.
Yeah, let rookies be rookies. I love that. All right, let's see what else we got here in terms of questions. I apologize if I look a little distracted. I just got a message from my wife that the flooring has just come in, so that's why all the banging is going on. Yeah, this microphone is fantastic. All right, I got So I got the Jairi Alexander one out of the way. Lee Bruin says he's got a feeling now that with Ragnar retiring, freeing up $14 million, he thinks that the Lions will be going after Trey Hendrickson in a trade.
14 don't get it. They need 30-something to get that done.
Yeah, double that $14 million. You're absolutely right. But
don't forget, he has turned down $28 million a year for 3 from Cincinnati.
Wow. The only way they go after Hendrickson is if they have some concern that this injury with Aiden Hutchinson is going to give him trouble. He's
been cleared, 100% cleared. So, because they announced that week before last or early last week.
Mm-hmm. Jim Richels, a Lions fan, says the Lions have $50 million in cap space as it speaks, but still are not going after him. And the reason they're not going, as Jim, I'm sure will tell you, is because there's so many contracts up for the Lions. They're superstars. Their contracts are up after this season or after the 2026 season. So
As of right now, they got $40,124,000.
Right. Okay.
So, because I'm simply looking there to see if Ragnow is on there.
Big Frank.
Ragnow is still on there, so he clears up $5.6 million.
5.6. Okay.
So that gives them 46, about 46, just under 46, or just over 46 million.
40 million plus whatever Ragnar retirement gives them. All right. Thanks for that, Jim. All right. So this week is the final OTAs before training camp in late July. What are we hoping to see? What are we hoping that the Bears are going to accomplish now with these rookies in these 2 or 3 days of OTAs?
Not a whole lot. First of all, how many guys are there?
Right.
Because you got first year guys. It's almost like a rookie mini camp.
Right. So it's more
not even as good as, because you really don't have as many guys as rookie mini camp. So to me, and I'm guessing, more walkthrough stuff, classroom stuff, that type of thing. Then unless there are enough veterans that just on their own say, hey, I'm here, I might as well go in.
Yeah. J2K makes a good point. It could be a lot of special teams work that's going to happen over the next few days because the guys who are there are all prime candidates for special teams work.
So, a lot of them are, yeah. But you still need, 22 players anyway. Now, you got all your undrafted free agents and first year guys, that count against us, like the guys who were on the practice squad last year. So, there's a decent number, but it's not a huge number. Mm-hmm. You're limited as to what you can do. Again, 15 vets decide, hey, I'm going to go to work anyway.
Yeah.
Then that makes it that much better.
Yep. Somebody I saw on social media, somebody took a picture with Caleb Williams, so he's definitely still in town, which will be great that he will be at Hallis Hall this week. Levante Rogers with some breaking news. Thank you, Levante. Coach just announced the transition of ownership. This is official now because you knew this, Greg, from Jim Irsay to his daughters, Carly, Casey, and Kaylin. Carly will be the principal, owner, and CEO. Casey will be the owner, executive vice president, and Kaylin, CBO, chief business officer, I guess, owner. That's a really wonderful thing to see. 3 young women taking over ownership of the team. In my opinion, that's great news.
Yeah, it is. I think that makes 3 women owners, or is it 4?
I think is there just one?
There's New Orleans. There's now there's Seattle.
So, okay. So we're talking 3 teams that are owned by women. So that's great news. More the better.
Seattle is the sister, I think, of Paul Allen, but that team is going to eventually, the Paul Allen Trust really owns the team, but she's runs it for it. Tennessee. That's 4.
Oh, that's right. Tennessee, indeed. Titans, Tennessee. Thank you, Arnie. Thank you, Brad. Lee Bruin says, if the Bears stick with Swift, Johnson, and Menange, who would Greg take as the number 4 running back? Homer, Wheeler, or Hankin? Really hope it's not Homer, Lee says.
Homer is there for special teams.
And it will take a lot to beat him out.
He's a very good special teams player. That's why he was signed to begin with. Wheeler is a question mark. We loved what we saw last year.
Right.
Did not take part in any of the program up to date. So when is he going to be cleared to go? And then
No,
will he be-
Wheeler was in camp, actually practicing this past week. I saw
this
him.
past week he was?
Yes, he was. Yes.
I just saw him when they were showing drills, 5 players. I didn't see him.
Yeah, I did see him, and somebody pointed it out to me because I said the same thing in a different
I
show.
saw
Yeah.
were
Did you see Hankin?
Swift, Johnson, Monungai, Homer, and then there was the Hankin or whatever his name is.
Right.
I did not see because in fact there was somebody had a picture of Hankin out there, and then his mother chirped in on X and said, "That's my son."
Oh, how cool. How cool. But yeah, Wheeler, I'm positive I saw a Wheeler out there on one video that was shared on social media. But do you think that there is a chance that any one of those guys could beat out Homer for that 4th spot? I think those are all practice squad players.
They have to be able to do what he can do at the same level he can do it on special teams.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll have to just keep an eye on that and the reports coming out of camp. All right, let's see. I got this that just came in. Waitster says, quick non-football question for Greg. Have you watched the NHL playoffs and currently watching the Stanley Cup Championship? It's been awesome.
I watched some games. I have not seen any of the championship series yet.
Yeah, I have not either, but Stanley Cup playoff hockey is so darn exciting.
Oh, it's like an entirely different game than the regular season.
It really is. It really
it's
is.
Like the intensity level gets turned up about 5 notches.
Yep. And you know what the reason for that is? There's too many regular season games. 82 regular season games. You know, the best season of hockey I saw was that 2010 season when that was strike shortened. There were only like 25 regular season games, and every game was like a Stanley Cup playoff. But then you go back to these long seasons, same thing with NBA basketball, and it just dilutes.
Well, I mean, you could say that with baseball too.
I would say that, yes.
You know, the baseball, at least you got series. You got 3 and 4 game series with teams. So you're trying, like, you know, Cubbies were here in Detroit. And Detroit won 2 out of the 3. And so Detroit won the series. So that's a feather in their cap for that. Now, Detroit's got a pretty good team this year. They got the best record, actually best record in baseball, not just the best record in the American League. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to have it at the end of the year, but they do through the first third of the season.
Yeah. How much do you like baseball, Greg?
I'm like this, but I've watched a lot this year because there's nothing on TV. So, you know, I'm sitting usually at home because my wife's here in Detroit and I got nothing else to do. So I've watched probably more baseball this year than at any time in my life.
We've got some Lions fans in the chat room. If they wanted to, since you're in their area, if they wanted to take you out to dinner, would you accept?
No, because my wife and I, no, not because, no, what it is that we know we're stuck in here with the dog.
Yeah.
Because if we leave, he might start barking, and if he starts barking, then she's in trouble.
And she's in trouble, yeah.
So we're not going anywhere.
Yeah. We unfortunately our dog is not doing well, and so there's always somebody at home because he's in his final days. There's no doubt about it. So
well, I got a text from my wife earlier. I sent her a picture of what Bennett was doing. Let me see where we looking at the wrong thing here. But here's what she said, like she's going to get me on this one or something.
There he is. There's Bennett. What a great picture. When you took this picture, was Bennett staring at the fire or just going over there to warm up?
No, he was standing in front of, there's like a glass thing there, so it's not, but it throws out a lot of heat.
Okay.
I sent him a picture laying on this ottoman behind me, and she says, "Oh, my puppy, I already feel bad that you're going back with him. Next time, I think I might keep him here."
Oh,
So, no, I don't think so. No.
no, you wouldn't let that happen, would you?
I don't. He just doesn't feel comfortable. It's like he doesn't feel like this is his place. You can see that.
Yeah, yeah. It would take him a while to get used to it. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Kay. Yeah, my dog is slowing down real fast.
How
Thank you.
old is your dog?
17.
Oh God, yeah. And the little guys live forever too.
Yeah,
God
yeah,
love them.
yeah. And he's got Cushing's disease, so a lot of these warts, you know, and they're really ugly things all over his fucking body, man. And so he starts licking them or sometimes chewing them, and there's blood everywhere.
Oh gosh.
And he can't hear. His vision is impaired. It's a mess. Poor little fellow. Thank you, Abby. All right. By the way, Greg, now during this season, so besides watching baseball and maybe some of the little bit of the playoffs and so forth, what else are you doing to kind of entertain yourself? Have you started scouting?
I've got the last. I update my master list every 2 weeks, so I got to do that this week. But the last time I updated it, I was at 257 players already done for next year. Now that some of those guys, some of these agents want freshmen and sophomores for NIL. So, but I've done, close to 260 players.
Ooh, wow. That is a lot.
But see, I'm like, I start this year, next draft, like January 1st. So I'm going to go like January through December. And then there's only a handful of players that once the college season gets over that I may update, maybe 20. But it's like they're on to the next guys. Gotcha.
Any particular players that you scouted that you'd like to do a shout out to because you were so impressed?
Well, I'd have to.
And while you're looking, I'll say that Jason is invited.
There is a good running back class next year.
Ooh,
Notre
nice.
Dame's got 2 and Penn State's got 2, which is, you know how Ohio State had those 2 guys?
Yes.
Notre Dame and Penn State got 2 guys just like that.
Outstanding. Love to hear that.
Both of them. The one kid from Notre Dame might be the first running back taken if he has a year like he did last year. But the guy behind him, you put him in a school all by himself, and he'll run for 1,600 yards.
Wow, that's
he's that good. I don't know. So, and the 2 guys at Penn State, Singleton's one of them. They're really, really good football players.
Fantastic. You planning to go out to Vegas? Because if so, Jason wants to take you and your family out to dinner.
I am not. I haven't been to Vegas now since the East-West Shrine Bowl left. And I got a good friend that lives there. In fact, he was in town. There were neighbors of ours down the street, and they moved to Vegas about 4 or 5 years ago. And they were in town this past week, so I went out with them. I think it was Wednesday night we went out.
Oh, cool. Cool. I'm going to be in Vegas, Jason. So if you got that invitation for me, no, just kidding. Larry T says, is Jonathan Kim a threat to Cairo Santos? Even though Santos is under contract, Santos' range has been in question. I'll tell you this, Adam Hoke says he has not seen Santos miss a kick in any of these OTAs. He's been Mr. Automatic. What say you about Kim?
Rookies got to prove they can kick in the league. And it's not the physical. It's up here. It's the pressure. And that's why, hey, Robbie Gould was one of the great kickers, right? He got cut as a rookie. Yeah. Santos been cut a few times. All the good kickers get cut.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Early in their career, and they want to, a guy like Kim, he wants to come to a place like Chicago because he knows that they're not going to use Santos as much in the preseason. He's going to get a lot of tape. That's going to help him maybe catch on with somebody else. Could he, in theory, beat out Santos? Yeah. kickoffs are not as important anymore because of the change in the kickoff rule.
Right.
So it's not like you need a guy to drill it out of the end zone. That ends up being penalizing you instead of helping you. So you want more of a directional kick. But it is, Santos has to get it up quicker. He only has a range of about 55. This guy might have a range of 60. He's got a strong leg. I did him for an agent. He's a pretty good kicker, but he was a good kicker in college against college guys. What's he going to be like in a money game against the pressure that you have in the NFL? And that's what separates the good kickers from the bad kickers, is the pressure, being able to handle the pressure.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Erica wants to know, Greg, do you think that Case Keenum has a chance to beat out Tyson Bagent as QB2?
Yeah, what happens in the preseason will have a lot to do with that. And it's not just, it's how much reps do they get in practice too. So it's the practice reps counts with those guys. And so how many reps are they actually getting? See, the problem when you got a new offense with a new coach is the guy who's going to get all the reps is Caleb, because he's got to get as many as he can get. And that could hurt, as far as the number of reps guys like Bagent get. And so then, could a new coaching staff go with a more experienced guy? They could. I don't know. That's got to play itself out.
Yeah.
I personally like Bagent a lot. I think there's a lot of upside with him. You're only going to have him probably 4 years, and then he's going to make some money. And I mean, not a ton of money, but he's going to make some money in free agency. Don't forget, a good backup quarterback, he keeps himself healthy. He's good for $4 to $5 million a year for a long time.
For a long time. But yeah, one thing is that I really like about Bagent, he's behaved exemplary as a backup quarterback. He's not making noise. But he has said, I have high aspirations. I want to be a starter in this league, and I want to be a player at a very high level. And that's great. I'm anxious to see how he does in preseason with Ben Johnson's coaching. We heard him earlier in the show talk about how precise Ben is with what he's asking, the details that they go into and so forth. I think all the quarterbacks should be playing at a much higher level, thanks to Ben.
Well, what a lot of teams used to do is they used to collect quarterbacks, and then when they're getting up to the point where their contract coming out of a rookie contract, then they trade them, and could be the same, which means he would be traded after the season sometime,
right,
or the beginning of next year. Just same thing as we were talking about with Braxton. So you don't just lose them in free agency. You get something for developing them. But you cannot expect that you'll have him any more than 4 years, because he's going to, unless he says, okay, I'm happy being a backup. Well, then I don't watch the guy if he's happy being a backup. I want a guy that, wants the job.
I hear you 100%. I know that Mike North has been a big proponent of Mitch Trubisky over the years, but last season, he kind of divorced himself from Mitch a little bit because it seemed like Mitch was just happy to be a backup, and was
now Mitch, I'll tell you what he's making this year. I got
Mitch. Okay.
Yeah. Let me get in it because I have that site open up, so I just got to get to the team.
So he's probably making about $6 million, is my guess.
Let's see. Trubisky is making.
No, don't tell me $10 million.
No. 3.25.
Whoa. Man, oh man, it's still good money, but wow, what a big drop off for a guy who was a second overall pick of the 2016 draft, was that? Or 17?
Yeah, but that Josh Allen only comes out of the games when it's a blowout. So he signed a 2-year deal, 24 and 25, that was worth 5.25.
Have you heard anything, speaking of other quarterbacks, Shadur Sanders? Apparently he's impressing in Cleveland. They got 2 rookies now, the lefty and Sanders.
They got Dylan, who is
Dylan.
Gabriel Dillon, who's he's a 5'10" guy.
Oh, he's 5'10"?
Yeah, little guy.
I didn't know that. Jeez. Yeah. But what are you hearing out of Cleveland, if anything?
To be honest, now, I mean, I've probably seen what you said. They've had their moments. What happened in that? Who knows? I mean, the guy did not deserve to be drafted as late as he was. He really brought two programs back from the dead, Jackson State and Colorado. There's some stuff out there, some narratives that he was, terrible in interviews and stuff. And I don't know what's true and what's not true. So just let's see what happens with him.
Yeah, indeed. I wish them all well. If you play well, I'm going to give you a little slack. You could be an asshole. And I don't know if Shadur was an asshole, but I think his dad really hurt his draft stock, saying we're going to determine where we play. No, you're not. This is the NFL.
Well, but he said that going into the year, though, not really.
That's true.
After, when he found out, he thought the kid might be the first pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Going into the year. This
Right.
is like going back a year ago. So
yeah. Interesting.
He found out that wasn't going to be the case.
Yep. All right. Well, Greg, we're back next week. Let's see if we can get a guest next week. Who would you like to bring on? Maybe I can help reach out to somebody.
I got a couple ideas. I gotta reach out to him and see if one is Jay. I don't know what Jay may be on vacation now too, for all I know.
I think he's in Europe. From one of his recent posts on X, I think he's in Europe.
Okay, might have to wait till he gets back.
Yeah. Would you mind if I reached out to one of the Bears beat reporters?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I got a couple of names in mind. Mark Potash. Mark Potash might be available. You want to talk to Mark?
Mark is retired now, right?
He's got his own website. He's reporting from his own website, markpotash.net, I believe it is.
I know one thing. He doesn't show up to press conferences because you'd hear the questions.
That's for sure. I'll reach out to Mark and see if that would be a great show. You and Mark sparring a little bit.
No, I like Mark.
Me too.
He's a good guy, but I thought his questions were asinine. But hey, I'll tell you who would be really good is Courtney Cronin. She'd be very good.
Mark Grody. What about Mark Grody? Herb Howard. Levante say, please, not Pat Finley.
Herb Howard's good. Brody's good. We've had bigs on. Guys like Hoger with Chicago or CHGO, so they probably couldn't. So, it really depends on what their contractual situation is with the sites they're working for.
Yeah. Here's Jason McKee, an old buddy of yours.
Yep.
Yeah, he would love to come on, I bet.
We'll get Jason again, but I want to get him when we get closer to high school. We've had Jason twice, but when we get closer to high school football season, because then he can give a scouting report on his Carmel Catholic team.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. All right, Greg, when are you coming back? Do you want to share that with us?
Wednesday.
All right, well, safe travels.
Wednesday morning, I'll be driving back. I'll tell you what happened, though. So, I rented a car to come here.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So, they never tell you. I've been renting. I've rented thousands of cars.
I bet you have, yes.
Okay. So they always say, don't get the insurance. You use your own insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to pay the deductible. I have never had anything go wrong with a car. And going back 40 years. So I'm driving, I'm on 94, and a truck passes me and a pebble comes up, it hits the windshield, and I got a crack about this big in the windshield. Well, I got to pay for that one.
Oh my gosh.
And I couldn't believe it. Just,
turn it in and don't say anything.
You can see it. It's about an inch. It's right in the middle of the lower middle of the windshield. So
that's nuts.
You let the insurance company handle it and go from there. It might not cost me anything, but usually you got to pay whatever the deductible is.
Exactly. What about Bennett? How did he take to the drive?
He wasn't bad. I thought he was, because he doesn't like usually going in cars, but he took that long trip to Minnesota in a cargo van last year to get Robin's daughter. And so I guess he got used to it. He was in the back seat and just laying down. He didn't sleep all the way, but he was laying down most of the way. He was pretty good.
J2K wanted to know if Bennett started that fire.
If Bennett what?
If Bennett started that fire.
Let me tell you something. Once summer's over, so we get in the end of September, and the starts getting cool, I turn on that fire. It's like there's just a switch there. It's automatic.
Oh, nice.
He lives in front of that thing. He is there like all day.
How cool is that? That is
because
awesome.
it throws off a lot of heat. In fact, I don't even have to turn the heat on upstairs. The heat from that, warm air rises.
Yeah, right.
Warms up the whole upstairs.
Very, very nice. One other thought here I want to share. Let's see, where was that? Eric says you can try those windshield patch kits. Worked for him in a pinch with a U-Haul. Yeah, I think there's a patch kit for glass. It's a magic the way you put it on the crack and all of a sudden it seals itself. I don't know how the chemistry.
Well, I have to stop. I got to turn in the car by 3:30, so I'm going to leave here early. There's a right by my house. There's a one of those oil and oil shops and stuff. What's it called? Auto something, and they would probably have some sort of windshield patch kit. And if it does, I'll do it. Like
by the way,
AutoZone. That's the thing.
AutoZone. By the way, somebody just posted something in chat that reminds me to tell you or to ask you. Last year, we did a show where we had a few Bears fans, followers of the show, come on and ask you questions and debate.
Well, that was supposed to be an argument.
Right. It wasn't an argument. I mean, there was a little bit of a debate, but would you like to do that again where we ask maybe a handful of followers?
We can do that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. And I'll referee if necessary. So, by the way, I saw this, Mellon, so I want to bring it up with Greg. CHGO, Hogue and Carmen reported that Deo is on the bubble and taking snaps because Damram is, because Damram is getting so much praise.
That does not mean he's on the bubble. It means Damram might be trying to save his job.
Exactly.
The takes these guys do. I took that just for it's going into his fourth year. He wants to keep playing. He's going to play hard. He's got a new coaching staff. Maybe he was on the shit list with the last guys for all we know.
Exactly.
And he's always played the run pretty good, but he can't rush the passer. But Deo was on give me a fucking break. That's stupid.
Yeah, and I should have prefaced that, Erica. You're absolutely right. Mellon has been in the chat talking a lot of shit, so I'm not quite sure. But I did see something on social media. Somebody saying Deo's in trouble. Looks like Dom's going to take his job, and so
The next thing you're going to see is Manan guy is going to be the starter at running back now because. And the tight end who's like number 5 on the depth chart, he's looked good in the thing, but he's going to beat out a first and a second round pick in Komet and Loveland. I mean, that's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the guy's name? Moore, the tight end?
Yeah.
Okay. Who is he? But he's looked good, so. Does that mean he's going to beat out Komet and Loveland? No.
No way. No way. Yeah, Kay, you're absolutely right. I should only listen to true Bears insiders. And unfortunately, there's so many people proclaiming that there are Bears insiders, people I never heard of. Joel Wilson.
That stuff, when they come up with statements like that, that's for engagement and for hits, period.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I've had arguments with people regarding that Sears Tower guy and a bunch of other guys.
Does he even exist anymore?
He goes away for months at a time. I think it's because his mom takes away his PlayStation. And so
he after free agency, he quit. I don't know if he's I don't even know if he's got an account anymore.
I don't know either. Anyway, that'll do it for this episode. Thank you, Evie, for the donation. Greg, you are absolutely awesome and look really, really cool in this all white with the Bears 18 hat there. That is really fucking awesome.
Well, this is actually a gray pullover. My wife is always freezing, and she's got the temperature here at about 68, and I'm freezing. So I got this little pullover on.
That's how my wife is too. She wants it in the 50s, and I'm like, "What are you, crazy?"
I haven't even. Since my wife's been gone, the air conditioning hasn't even been on yet.
Oh, really? All right, everybody. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you on next week. Same time, same station.
See you later. Bye-bye.